Hello, Aeos Islanders. Welcome back to the channel. This is Ludicolo, and today I want to present to you a new series called Making the Meta. Basically, what that just means is that as the game evolves and we're all kind of learning what the best strategies are and what the best process is going to be as the game, kind of goes from start to finish, I want to talk about three pillars of the meta that are still yet to be discovered. Which is the laning phase, the jungling strategies, as well as the map strategies. So yeah, let's dive into it. And here's the map if you haven't seen it. A little late to the game, but you're still welcome. And but yeah, all of us are really excited to jump into this. And let me preface, all of this is pre-release, all of this is speculation. It's just really kind of throwing out my 2 cents and hoping that it, we'll see how it goes. I mean, honestly, we're all just kind of rolling with the punches here. So there's two distinct ways to kind of start the game, and that's going to the top lane or the bottom lane. Pretty straightforward there, nothing too crazy. And I personally think that in the top lane, we're going to see a lot of attackers and defenders going up into the top lane to, mostly for really easy peasy reasons. Attackers, they do a lot of damage. Unfortunately, they're not very good at taking damage. Defenders, they're really good at mitigating damage, but they're not super strong on the attack side. So I think it's a really good relationship. It's like a symbiotic relationship, a little combo powwow of some sort for the attackers and defenders to be in the top lane. And there's a specific reason why I think they're going to gravitate towards the top, and that's going to be Rotom. Rotom living up there in that top lane, he lives right up here. I think that's going to be a really important buff for the attackers and the defenders to kind of take on together. Now for the bottom lane, I think it's going to be the all-rounders and the supporters. Now your all-rounders are your star students. They can put out as much damage as they can take, and the supporters are definitely cheering them on from the sides, but no, not really. I really think that the all-rounders just kind of being the most quote-unquote well-balanced from their stats. The supporters are going to be really good there, and specifically focusing on their sustain, making sure that the all-rounders can sustain as long as possible in the lane without having to go back to base all the time. So if in the bottom lane, for whatever reason, that there's an attacker and a defender kind of in the bottom lane, the all-rounder and the supporter should hopefully still be able to put up a fight against them. Hopefully that's not going to happen, which is why I think eventually there's just going to be a meta, especially at the higher tiers of gameplay, to where depending on whatever role you play, there's going to just be a designated lane that you go to, kind of like there is in League of Legends. And then you also have Drednaw down there, so he's going to be really good as a buff as well. We'll get to him later, but he lives right there. Let's keep moving on. So the jungle, what is it? Where is it? What's inside? There is this little area right here. This is the main part of the jungle. That's definitely the main area of the jungle. I'm just going to be focusing on, typically the side that you would be playing on, which you typically play from left to right. I'm not sure if they're ever going to do like an inverse side of the map. I kind of hope they don't. I think it's going to make the gameplay a little bit easier, and the muscle memory is going to be a lot easier to adapt, but you never know. Down the line, they might do that. There's also another part of the jungle that's kind of on these outskirts over here. Basically, the jungle is everything that's not asphalt, where there's no goals. Everything else is a jungle. And I think it's the one thing that really stood out to me for Unite is that, in a way, every single role in standard MOBAs has to kind of also be a jungler. When you play League of Legends and you're, the ADC or the supporter, you're typically not going into the jungle. Maybe the ADC does, but the supporter, as a support role, they don't typically go get buffs or, try to get experience from the jungle. It just doesn't really make sense. So I think that's really interesting, but going back into Unite, that's pretty much where the jungle is. This is where this is the speedsters domain, especially that center part of the jungle. Maybe they take the outskirts sometimes, if there's some stuff for them to take there, but I think for the most part the speedsters are going to be kind of focused in that area, and that's because they're going to be able to be fast. They're going to be able to get to the top lane, get to the bottom lane when there's pressure needed, when there's stuff happening and they need to be there to help their team out. They're going to be able to get there the fastest and join the team. So take a little quick look at the map again if you want to, but I'm going to flip to a different view that kind of focuses a little bit more on the jungle and where things are in the jungle, and where everything lives. So here we go. This is a little bit more of a diagram of where everything lives in the jungle. I'm going to start with the low priority jungle, or wild Pokemon, as we can call them. So the main lane where the asphalt is, there's going to be some monkeys there that you can kind of get. Those are going to give you some Aeos energy and a little bit of XP. There's also next to the Zapdos, you'll see that there's kind of like a diagonal there. And I think it's really interesting where they strategically place all of the priority tiered wild Pokemon, because there's a flow to them, with Lillipup as well. So the flow, is kind of like, so say I'm playing supporter, I'm probably not going to be as reliant on experience and Aeos energy as the all-rounder that I'm, co-laning with. So I'm going to probably flow when the whistle blows. I'm going to go hit all these little monkeys here. I'm going to go, work my way towards Zapdos, and then I'm going to come back around and meet my all-rounder here. And, my all-rounder is either going to go, kind of down here and try to get these, and then focus, down these more other tiered priorities, which we'll get to in a second. They're going to go down here and meet me, so we can kind of meet in the middle right there, and then, kind of figure out what's going on with the other team. That way we can both, get as much experience as possible, get as much Aeos energy as possible right from the beginning of the game. Now, the medium priority wild Pokemon, there's 3 that kind of live back here that are a medium priority. You have the bees that kind of come into the middle, which you've probably seen in a lot of gameplay footage. They're just kind of always there, kind of getting in the way of the fighting sometimes, but I mean, we'll figure out how that goes down. And then you have 2 medium priorities, but this medium priority wild Pokemon area is somewhere that I kind of want to talk about a little bit. I do think that once the 5-minute mark, 4-minute mark kind of happens, I think this bottom part of the map is where there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, just because with all of these medium priority wild Pokemon, there's so much happening all at once, and you want to make sure that you secure that as much as possible, as opposed to the other team. Because if you can secure everything that's pretty much in your territory, and then also secure all of this, and that's everything that's in here, as opposed to the enemy team, that's going to give you the upper hand. That's where you get yourself ahead with your Aeos energy points. Now, granted, that means, that's assuming that you hold on to it to be able to score, and there's no contestation there, and, so we'll see how it goes. But I do think this if I was a jungler, I'm gonna get my experience up as much as possible, clear my jungle, my path, and then I'm gonna kind of go peek and make sure that our team is going to be securing all these wild Pokemon in the bottom. Now the pathing is kind of crazy for the medium priority, so let's just kind of whatever path you want to take, I think is going to be the best for starting off, but eventually I think there's going to be a flow. Now, high priority, I'm going to start with specifically the speedsters, high priority buffs, and I think these are the speedsters, in my opinion, my personal opinion. Some people may disagree, like, no, it's my buff or whatever. It's always like this when it comes to these kinds of things, but these 2 buffs are specifically designed for the speedster, and the reason that I think they are is that they are almost the furthest point away from both of the boss buffs. So, the way that I see it is that right before the team goes to Rotom or goes to Drednaw, the speedster wants to get one of these buffs and get over as fast as possible to make sure that your team secures Rotom or Drednaw. That's why I think that it's going to make the most sense, at least at that point in the game, for it to kind of flow like that. And then after Rotom and stuff like that, I think there's a high possibility that defenders and attackers, maybe the all-rounders, depending on who they're matched up against, might be coming to get some of these camps, but definitely right before Rotom or Drednaw, or even Zapdos, I think these are going to be vital for the speedster. So let's move into the bosses as well. So we have the purple buff, which is Ludicolo. I don't know if I'm saying that right. If I am not saying it right, sorry. For me, it'll just be the purple buff. I'm sure I'll learn eventually. But So basically, he just gives you increased damage when the enemy is below a certain threshold. So as they get to a lower level of health, you're going to be able to, like double that damage or whatever percent that is. So it's just going to help you just clear that a little faster. It really depends on what character you're playing. I think this is going to help this guy because it probably stacks with other things. So it's really going to be contingent for this guy. Now the orange buff I think is the stronger buff in my opinion. It's a slowing buff, but also it really just depends on who you're playing with. So it only works on your normal attacks. So if you start using any of your special attacks or anything like that, it's not going to work. But when you hit them with a normal attack, it's going to slow them down. So that way you can kind of secure and they can't, get away. But there are ways for them to get away, but I definitely think this is the better buff in my opinion. So just so you know, there's these little yellow dots up here, and these yellow dots, they're going to be able to kind of tell you like what camps are active right now, if you should go gank to them or go to them or whatever like that. I'm not sure if they show the low priority ones or not. It looks like they might. So everything that's low, medium, or high, they're all going to be shown on this mini map, so that's going to be really helpful. Now for the bosses, they have a different icon, which I'll get to in a second. Let's start with the bosses though. So Rotom, basically when you hit Rotom and your team captures him, you have to last hit him. So it doesn't matter, the game's not looking to see like, oh well, the other team dealt more percentage of damage to Rotom, so they won him. No, it's whoever gets that last hit. They're going to be the owner of quote-unquote Rotom. He's going to start pushing down that top lane. And, so basically they're just going to just push and things like that. So they take down the more Aeos energy you have. So keep in mind, the more Aeos energy you have, the longer it takes to score. And with Rotom, that whole timer is gone. So you don't have to hold as long to score, you just immediately score. I'm pretty sure he also does damage from what I remember. I played a little bit of the beta. I was on the road while the beta was active, and I had to play on my hotspot, and it was really spotty. I got dropped from a lot of games and stuff like that, so it was a little bit frustrating at times, but I'm pretty sure that he also does damage as well. But anyways, so the person that last hits him gets 20 Aeos energy. So that's a pretty big amount compared to some of the smaller camps. So whoever last hits Rotom needs to be protected at all costs, and make sure that those points get scored. He spawns at 7 minutes along with Drednaw, and this little icon is what all of the bosses look like. Now for Drednaw, he's on the south side, right? He's going to basically just give you your whole team a shield. He's going to be really good if the all-rounder and the jungler gets his 2 jungle camps, the all-rounder gets Drednaw right before Zapdos. I mean, you're going to be coming in with so much heat that you're going to be able to get Zapdos done like nothing and walk away like nothing ever happened. I do think that that's a really good strategy there. And so a lot of people say like, oh, he's not that special or anything like that. But, because Rotom's definitely the more flashy boss that's mid-game. But, I definitely think Drednaw is something to kind of keep in mind. It may just be a little orb that comes around your character. But still, I mean, it's about the buff. He also spawns at 7 minutes as well. So that 7-minute mark is definitely really important in this game that can kind of tier your team towards winning or losing. So keep that in mind. Now, Zapdos is the map boss. He is the game changer of all time. You could be so far behind, but if you plan it strategically enough, you can come in hot and win the game, no questions asked. So he's just right in the center, smack dab in the middle, as he should be, with how much power he can give your team. So defeating it, last hitting it, gives whoever got that last hit gets 30 Aeos energy, everybody else gets 20, and you also get that instant scoring. So that's huge. Like, everybody gets a ton of points on your team just by defeating him, and you get to instantly put that into the goal. Now keep in mind that if you're going for Zapdos, the other team is probably going to be coming for Zapdos too, because everybody wants Zapdos. And the strategy to keep in mind and to make sure that happens is that you're able to walk away from Zapdos with still being able to score. You don't want to get Zapdos and then have your whole team wiped because you didn't have enough health to push after Zapdos is done. So there's definitely a big strategy there to keep in mind. So another thing to keep in mind is that in the last 2 minutes the points are doubled. So with all that stuff that Zapdos gave you, he just gave you ton of birthday presents, Christmas presents, Hanukkah presents, whatever sort of presents. He just gave you all the things, all the holidays, and all those points are doubled. So definitely a lot of strategy that needs to be played around Zapdos carefully. I think kiting strategy is going to be huge once Zapdos is won. Definitely. So yeah, I think that's it for everything that I have. I really appreciate you watching the video to this point. Please subscribe. Let me know your comments. I mean, I don't really care what you do. Honestly, all I care about is that you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.